Ex-Eskom manager is speaking out about receiving death threats for uncovering corruption. At the weekend, the City Press reported that Dorothy Mmushi claims an anonymous assassin called her and said that he had been offered 400,000 rand to murder her. The former forensic manager has accused Eskom management and the police of doing very little to protect her life. Dorothy Mmushi joining us live now. Ms. Mmushi, thank you very much for being with us. This has now received a lot of coverage, public coverage. Do you feel like South Africans are behind you?
At this stage, I'll say yes, they are.
Okay, you say you received a call from this hitman. Just give us a sense of the timeline. That must have been before you met with the boss of the Hawks early this year. Just give us a sense of how things happened.
Okay, I received a call from the alleged hitman, and obviously I was quite concerned and traumatized. And my first instinct was call the cops. And then I contacted General Godfrey Lebeya and informed him about the allegations. And he then summoned an investigation into it, and an investigator from the Hawks then came into contact with me. I must say the call from the alleged hitman has traumatized me. It's not every day that anyone gets a call from a hitman where someone tells you that your life is at risk and I have a decision whether you live or die. And worst of all, for someone to inform you that they've been watching you and they've got your personal information as well. So it has been quite traumatic.
Yeah, I'm sure. When did that happen? I'm sure you can remember exactly where you were when you received such a startling call.
I was at home. It was about 8:30 in the evening, and this is about a week ago. I must also mention that at the time that I received the call, I was still an employee of Eskom. It was on the eve of the expiry of my contract with Eskom. So this is quite recent. And for me, what shocked me was, why am I getting death threats when I'm on the eve of leaving Eskom? Is it because people want to intimidate me and to make sure that I do not speak when I leave Eskom? So I had a lot of questions that were racing through my head about why this was happening to me. I am quite disappointed at the management of Eskom in that I reported these allegations to them, but I did not get the necessary support in terms of getting close protection security. I mean, you can imagine I've done so much to investigate fraud and corruption in its billions at Eskom, but here is my former employer not even willing to provide security.
So let me just try and understand, because you say you emailed the former CEO of Eskom, Andre de Ruyter, in April 2021, right? So you received this latest call a week ago. What was happening at that time in 2021? What did you say in that email?
My apologies. The actual email was in 2022. In that email to Andre de Ruyter, I was informing him about how I was being victimized by members of the Hawks because I was unlawfully arrested on alleged extortion based on a statement by one of the suppliers that I had investigated. And this was quite clear that I was being intimidated and victimized. I also made him aware about the cartels that are operating in the Eskom space. At the time that I sent Andre this email, he didn't even bother responding to my email. The very same email was also sent to the chairperson of the board, and there was nothing that was forthcoming from executives at Eskom. So for me, looking at it sitting here now is that Eskom does not prioritize corruption or fraud or even victimization of its own employees.
What were you being accused of at the time? And have you managed to clear that up? I mean, why did you leave Eskom?
Currently, I've left Eskom because my contract has expired. At the time that I had emailed Andre regarding the unlawful arrest, I was being accused of extortion. I can tell you for a fact that the claims that this person was making were fictitious. To a point that the NPA withdrew the charges against me.
Okay, so that has been clarified and you've been vindicated.
I have been vindicated. I have actually laid a civil claim against the SAPS for the unlawful arrest. I have further even laid a complaint, and this was all done last year with the DPCI Inspectorate Judge regarding the unlawful arrest. So all of this is a build-up to what has now transpired into death threats. So me being threatened and intimidated didn't start from this call from the hitman. I've been threatened before, and still Eskom had done nothing. And instead, I actually suffered more victimization at the hands of my immediate line manager, who is now allegedly involved to have been colluding with these suppliers to have me killed. You can imagine how that must make me feel. Someone who I reported to directly, who was expected to be fighting fraud and corruption, was in collusion with the people who want me dead.
So, and tell me more about that. How do you know this manager is involved, and is he still at Eskom as we speak?
I know that he's involved because I myself have laid a criminal case against him, because last year when I went through this unlawful arrest, he placed me on suspension irregularly, and while I was on suspension, he had access to my laptop, and service providers that I had blocked for unlawfully gaining purchase orders from Eskom were able to then further defraud Eskom of 6 million. This particular individual not only has victimized me, there has been a group grievance by the forensic team against this individual for, among others, dishonest behavior, victimization, bullying, as well as forcing forensic investigators to change recommendations in forensic reports.
Okay, and you're saying he actually opened up your computer and then opened up payments to dodgy suppliers that Eskom had blocked?
Yes, my laptop at the time was in his possession, and an email was sent to our vendor management purporting to be me to say the investigation against these suppliers has been finalized, therefore these suppliers must be unblocked. And immediately after that email was sent, the suppliers were able to transact with Eskom to the tune of about 6 million. I then discovered this when my suspension was uplifted. And I can tell you, I did lay a grievance against this particular individual. But as those who are in Eskom know, there is always collusion in terms of how disciplinary or grievances are handled at Eskom. So that is also not an objective process.
All right. I know that the head of the Hawks has responded to your claims on at least one platform today. He said he was willing to meet you because claims of collusion in Eskom are serious. Why do you say there's been no action from the Hawks side since then?
I would say there's been no action from the Hawks side because this hitman is still out there at large. There's never been action as well against the suppliers.
But wait, the hitman only phoned you a week ago, right? So were you, when you met with the head of the Hawks, was that just about the corruption that you had uncovered at Eskom?
I have previously met General Libya. My previous engagement with him was in relation to the security breach on my laptop that involved the unblocking of these suppliers. The second time that I've had an interaction with him was based on the latest death threats that I received from this hitman.
All right. Is there some attempt to investigate as far as you're concerned? Are you being taken seriously now?
There has been a bit of appetite from the Hawks. I'm just hoping that there will be speedy closure on this matter. My biggest concern as well is that about a year ago, similar allegations were made regarding our COO, where someone was threatening his life. And I can tell you within a space of days, the individuals that were threatening also apprehended. So why can the state not use those same resources to protect me? What makes me different from the other person who was intimidated? And yet with me, I've provided them with full details of the hitman. The things that he had sent me, I've sent them the numbers that he's been calling me from. I mean, our state security and law enforcement has resources to be able to track down people. I'm just surprised, why is it that with my case, those resources are not being utilized? Does it need to take me dying like Babita Diokoran for someone to take me seriously?
All right, well, we'll follow what action is taken. Before I let you go, please, you say that you've uncovered looting to the tune of billions. We all want to know what is happening inside of Eskom. Can you give us a very brief, broad overview of what you actually found?
The overview that I can give you is that there is definitely a cartel that's operating within Eskom. There's suppliers that are being awarded with purchase orders. These purchase orders are awarded in collusion with our buyers as well as end users. What happens as well is that the suppliers that are requested to quote are in collusion with each other. So it's not companies that are independent, it's companies that are either linked. They are then able to manipulate prices, and we end up purchasing goods at exorbitant amounts. In some instances, these goods are not even delivered to Eskom. I can give you a typical example of the knee pad matter that Andre de Ruyter mentioned during his interview, that we purchased knee pads to the value of 60,000 rands a pair. Knee pads at your general dealer or at any hardware would cost you about 200 rands a pair. So you can imagine that's the extent at which fraud and corruption is taking place at Eskom. And I can tell you this has been reported to the Hawks, and those individuals have not even been arrested.
All right, we appreciate your time. I wish we had more time to talk about other examples, but we will follow this case. That's former forensic manager from Eskom, Dorothy Mmushi.